Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of the Bay Ragni Show. We're here live Wednesday night with my dear old friend, the one and only Mr. Don Most. You might know him from Happy Days fame. But before we talk to Don, we have to tell you about tonight's show and all our shows that we do is brought to you by our good friends at Bombers and Sleeves. Bombers and Sleeves, they are a lifestyle apparel brand, and they are dedicated to bringing you the war on self-doubt. This is for the bold, the fearless, and the authentic souls who never back down. They wear it all on their sleeve. Bomb your boundaries and shop Bombers and Sleeves today at bombersandsleeves.com. And just so you know as well, Bombers and Sleeves is out of Nashville, Tennessee, which my good friend Don does some music stuff out of Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm in the in the middle. I was going to say in the middle of recording, but we're not really in the middle of recording right now. We were recording last year a new CD. A producer that's based in the Nashville area, Tony Mantor, and having a great time doing this CD. We had about 8 songs finished last year around this time, and then I was doing a play for about a month, and then we were going to finish recording. But while I was doing the play, the virus hit. It got bad. They had to close down all the theaters, and then I couldn't go to Nashville to record. And Tony and I have been talking. Okay, when are we going to get back in the studio? Well, not for a few months at least, and then that kept getting pushed back further and further. So now, hopefully, maybe May, we're thinking we'll get back to finish the CD. But I'm excited about it. As a matter of fact, we released a single from it in the UK. It's being released in about 2 weeks in the UK. I don't know what the strategy was. It's beyond my understanding. But it's going in the UK first, so whatever.
You know what? Like I'm seeing it right now, and I wanted to know if you recognize this too, as well, as you're talking about it, or even when you're on stage. Like when I was going through and getting ready for the interview, like I was seeing the clips of your live performance that was recently streaming again,
All right.
and I was, I see clips of that, and I see your face now. And when you start talking about your music, you get this smile to your face, like it's just like
Oh,
overwhelming happiness. Do you feel it?
yeah. I certainly feel it when I'm on stage with a great band behind me, playing those incredible songs with great arrangements. I get very, very happy as you're picking up on. I guess when I just talk about it, it permeates. I didn't know that.
You know what's kind of I guess weird, scary, however you want to put it, but again, going back as I'm getting ready and I was going over your music stuff, I didn't realize you put an album out, like a pop album out in the mid-'70s.
I did. Yeah. It was the kind of thing where the show was starting to really take off, become, maybe it was number one already. But I wound up talking to a journalist, and he did an interview, and then I talked about how I was a singer before I was even an actor, and he was, oh really? And he knew a producer. He introduced me to this guy, Danny Jordan, and Danny, and I hit it off, and he listened to me, and he said, "Man, I think we could get a deal for you based on the fact that I was on a hit show." And
Sure.
he got a deal for me at United Artists, which was a big label at the time. And but the music that I loved, that I had sung when I was younger, the jazz standards, swing and jazz and blues and all that, that wasn't commercial in the
Right.
70s. That was like, oh, that's your parents' or grandparents' music. So they wouldn't let me do that. So so we had to kind of pick from a more pop oriented list of songs, and it was a great experience, and there were some cool things that we did, but it wasn't it wasn't in my blood like the other music is.
Now, the funny thing is that it's funny you say that because I wanted to even say to you, like, yeah, like as I'm getting older now, like I noticed, like when I sit down to prepare for interviews, or if I'm doing some online work or whatever I'm doing, like, you know, I always turn to music. And the younger Bay would turn to bands like Kiss, or something of the 80s, Motley Crue, or something like that, and just something Aerosmith, harder rock, harder edge
Right?
stuff. But now, as I'm going to be hitting 51 years old in a few months, like my number one go-to now is Frank Sinatra,
Ah, there you go. There you
Dean
go.
Martin,
Oh
Frankie
yeah.
Valli. Like I'm going to all the older stuff now, and I'm just like, it just soothes the soul so
It,
much.
it does. It does. That music and the style. I've heard that from other people. Where I loved that music when I was a teenager, and most, this was the '60s, and people thought I was a little weird, liking the grandparents' music. I mean, and then I started getting into all the music, the great renaissance that was happening in the music world in the '60s, and I loved that too, and the '70s. But for some reason, that other music, hit me in a different place. I don't know, reincarnation, if you believe in that, maybe there's something going on with that. But that music I loved, and then a lot of my friends who teased me back then for liking that music, when we got into, I remember, getting into close to being in the '50s, they were all of a sudden going, I'm kind of liking that music that you always told me about. So I guess you get to a certain point in age, and um, well, there's the youth and the rebellious spirit and all that, and so whatever's happening at the moment needs to be, you need to stay hip and all that. But then maybe you get wise and you see. I mean, the music. Not that there wasn't great music like I said, the classic rock era. There's some
Sure.
incredible music, and in the '80s, there's always great music. So I don't want to be, being all highfalutin about it and being a music snob, because, but there's nothing. There is a place. There's a definite place for the music of the great American songbook, and especially if it's done, with an ear towards modern sensibilities, and there's
Sure.
a way to combine that.
No, don't you think it's weird though, just the way, um, either way of entertainment, music or acting with TV and movies, like with music, like your Sinatras, like the Sinatras, the Beatles, the Elvises, how they just stand timeless, and it's like no matter what age, they learn to just like love them so much. And the same with acting, whether it's the you're Gone with the Winds, the classic TV series, Andy Griffith, Happy Days.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like it's some for some reason stuff like that just stands the test of time.
Yeah.
But then stuff that comes out in the last like 10, 15, even 20 years, you're kind of like, flash in the pan.
Yeah. Is that also a result of the plethora and the wide, the huge number of choices that people have now, as opposed to what they did then? So it's harder to make that kind of stamp than it
Yeah,
was back then. I mean, there might be, because there's some great things on TV. I think in the drama category, especially, a lot of the new series that are on all these platforms. There's some great stuff. So, but then there's like 50 other channels and
yeah,
streaming this, and so I think it's changed. It's changed the perception of, what are the major, the major moments in cinema or TV, as what it was back in the day. I mean, when Happy Days was on, we had three channels. I mean,
yeah,
you had your local channels, but it was basically, CBS, NBC, and ABC. That's what
right.
you were watching every night. So it's a different zeitgeist.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, how about a person like yourself, like you're saying? Yeah. Now you were a guy who was hit TV show in its prime, 70s, 80s, with the three major networks. And you look at the way it is today with, okay, the three major networks, and then there's a few slightly minor networks under the major networks, and
Right.
then there's the streaming, and then there's the cable networks, and then there's
Cable.
the major cable networks like your HBOs, et cetera, that also
Right.
have their own series. Like, do you
Right.
look at all that and is it kind of overwhelming to you?
Yeah, it is. It is overwhelming to me, and to the point where for a good amount of years, I was hardly watching any series television because I don't know if it was the overwhelming factor or other things going on in my life at the time. Hard to pinpoint that, but it is overwhelming when you think about it, because when you go to look for something to watch, where do you begin? And
Yeah, yeah,
and then where do you end up? I mean, it just takes you on this never-ending journey, through navigating all the different platforms and menus and
right.
menus that lead you to other menus. So
Okay, so let me ask you this: like, if by chance you're in front of the TV and you're flipping through whatever menu you're flipping through, what is Don most stopping on? What do you watch?
well, I'm watching a lot of news, more news than I ever watched in my life, and that's also part of, you get, I think, to a certain age where you're watching more news, but
Yeah.
especially with what's happened in the last year and a half or 4 years. But so I'm watching that, and then watching every once in a while a show, on one of the platforms, like right now I'm watching Schitt's Creek, which
Okay.
interestingly enough, my wife and I, we weren't that crazy about it in the beginning. And then I said, but it won all these Emmys in this last year. It must have gotten good somewhere. And we kept, I would advance seasons, and then we got into the fourth season, and all of a sudden I was really liking it. So I got into that, and I'm loving the show now. And it's funny because I wasn't liking early ones. Who knows? Um, but so that's something I watch. But besides news, I watch. I'm a big golf. Got into golf in a big way, so I really enjoy watching the Golf Channel. And like I said, in certain things, if I hear about a show that's getting a lot of good acclaim, I'll check it out on the different platforms. But I don't watch a fraction of what I used to. When I was
Sure.
younger, I would watch so much more. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know. I'm not going to try to assess that right now.
You mentioned the golf, and right away I flash back. The last time we talked last summer, we were talking about what you and Anson did together, Harvest Time, and
Oh,
there was a golf tie-in there.
there
Is that
was.
where it came from?
No, that just happened to be in the script. It's funny because people that know me, I think, assume that, oh, that was my input, putting that golf bit in there. But that happened to be in the script before I ever signed on to do it. So
That's funny.
nice coincidence. Yeah, Harvest Time. Yeah, people should check that out. Go on YouTube.
Absolutely.
YouTube. Put in Harvest Time. My name, Don Most or Anson Williams, because we're proud of that. That was a really interesting piece.
It really was because, like I said to you last time when we talked, it was so different than what most people would expect. I mean, everybody knows and loves you as Ralph Malph, and people always will think to you, it's Ralph. But when they see this piece
Right.
for you and Anson, it's totally different, and
Totally different.
it's
Yeah.
so great because it sees you guys as true actors in another form.
Yes. That's why we gravitated. Producer David Levin came to us. This was some years ago. Said, and the idea was an anthology series, and it was going to be different twosome each episode, and taking people that and like that they have great chemistry, they work great together, and you want to see them together, but you put them in something totally different.
Right.
That was the concept. And we came close when we made this to getting it on some of the major cable, some of the big ones, but it just didn't quite get over the finish line. And but there's still a chance. It's I think it's still a great idea, and maybe we'll do it. For as a real series. But that was fun. That was definitely fun.
Now, the one I really got to talk to you about is, but believe it or not, when you shared the trailer out for this movie, like I watched it and I sat there with my mouth open, like, wow, like
Hmm.
it. I was like, really, honest to God, I was truly blown away.
From the
So
trailer? From the trailer?
from the trailer, and
Oh,
I was so intrigued. I was like, I have to see this movie,
oh, wow. Right. You
Lost
mentioned
Heart.
that. Yes, yes, yes. You told me. Yeah.
So when we started talking a couple weeks back, now it like really forced me to watch it. And Don, I'm going to tell you, honest to God, like as I was watching it, it struck such a nerve. Like it got to the point where actually I started crying.
Really?
Yeah,
At,
yeah.
towards the end of the movie?
Towards
Or?
the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Honest to
Yeah.
God, such an amazing movie. I mean, first off, so you have a movie that has UFOs, UFAs.
Right. Your face.
It's got Bigfoot. It's got the devil at the crossroads.
Right.
It has a person with Down syndrome who has a major role in the
Major,
movie.
major role. Yes. And he's
Who
great. And he's
he was
great.
great,
He's great.
true standout star of the movie.
Josh Perry. Josh
And
Constantine Perry.
amazing. And the story itself, I think, is so it's so real. It's so
Yeah.
real and hits you in the heart,
Yeah.
and it was so beautiful.
Oh, that's great to hear, Bay. I really appreciate that. Yeah, the guy who wrote it, DJ Perry, wrote a beautiful script, and he's one of the founding members of the production company that made the film. It's
Okay,
called CDI, uh, yeah, Collective Development Entertainment, and I did. This is the second movie I've done with them. He wrote it. He also plays. He's a very talented actor too. He plays the guy who's the UFO reporter, the guy
okay,
with the
okay.
long hair.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's DJ who wrote it, and one of the producers. Jesse Lowe directed it. And when I read the script, I did a film with them a year earlier, and I had a terrific experience. It was called MBF, Man's Best Friend. You should
Okay,
check it out
I
because
will.
DJ, who wrote that script as well, is the star of this movie, and he plays a wounded vet coming back from Afghanistan with post stress disorder, and it's a really terrific performance. And I play his defense attorney. I won't tell you much more, but it's a pretty strong film, very powerful. So DJ, when they called me and said, we'd love for you to do another movie with us, and this is like a lead character this time, because the other one was a nice supporting role. So I read the script and I was like, this is really good. This is really good. And he did a great job of blending. That's why I think it hit you, and I think it's so effective. It's the blending of all these elements,
Yeah,
and there's humor,
yeah, there is.
but then there's things that everybody can relate to in some way, and then the melange of these characters, these eccentric characters from this little town in northwestern Michigan. It's so refreshing, and I think it brings you back to some, almost in a way to like what people loved about the 50s was the simplicity of it, and the values that people had. And I think in this little town, it's almost like a throwback to that to some degree.
Right.
So that's probably another element that I think is working there.
Now, I got to ask this too real quick. Like, when I posted earlier that we're gonna be doing the interview tonight, a friend of mine FaceTimes me, goes, Don Most was in Philly recently filming a movie. I think that was the one. Was this it?
No, I was in Philly about November, late October, no, early November, doing a short film.
Oh,
I think it's going to be really, really good. It's called When They Murdered George. So you know who it's the George Floyd. It's about
yeah.
that, and it's a really interesting piece. I flew to Philly. I was a little worried about flying, but it was a little before it got really bad, so I
Okay.
snuck under it. And but I wanted to do it, and it's a really interesting piece. And I've been talking to the director, Terrence Tykeen, who wrote it and directed it, and he's very excited because it sounds like he's adding more and more to it, and I think it's going to be an important piece. So
Nice.
we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm waiting to hear when it's coming out. I don't know yet.
That's cool. Now, something else I saw that you did work on. That's I'm guessing some type of series. It's called Puckheads, and I'm really intrigued by
Oh
this.
yeah, yeah. It was a pilot we shot, and
Okay.
I think they're still in the process of trying to find a home for it, which I think it's a slam dunk. I don't know why I haven't heard that they've got it on now with all the different platforms out there. But yeah, Puckheads. I play the owner of a minor league hockey team. It's
Okay.
kind of like a Bull Durham in with hockey. It's a
Nice.
minor league hockey team, and some of the people that were involved, producer, writers, had experienced it. So that's how it came together. There's all the goings on behind what's going on with all the the players and their escapades and affairs and whatever's going on, and all the crazy stuff that he had firsthand info. There's nothing like the truth. Truth can be stranger than fiction. So it sounds like they had some great stories. So I'm hoping Puckheads gets the nod and we start making it. It was an interesting cast. Nicholas Turturro was in the pilot, and a few other people. Kevin Sizemore, who I've become really good friends with, and some other really great actors. So we'll see what happens.
That's awesome. Now, I got to ask a couple Happy Days questions. First, we have to go back to Happy Days at some point.
Yeah.
Um, you shared out about a month ago on Facebook about Pat Morita. There's a documentary coming out about him.
Yeah, it's out now. I think it's out.
And
Yeah,
right away, I thought to
more than Miyagi, it's called.
right away, I thought to myself, oh my God, like he was Arnold. He was Arnold.
He was
Like,
Arnold.
yeah,
That's
like
right,
people forget.
Before
Yeah,
there was Al.
like and I think both of those characters, Al and Arnold, like don't get enough love or respect. And I wanted to get your love for the both of those characters. I mean, they were
Wow.
so I
Yeah.
can't thank either of them enough for being so vital in that story.
Oh wow. Yeah, they were great. They were both so great in their own way, and so obviously so different, but equally great. Pat, there was no Arnold in the first two seasons. I thought it was the first season, but when I was watching the documentary, I was my recollection got revised that it was the third season because they always talked about Arnold.
Yeah.
Always talked about it, but you never saw him. So I think they finally said, we got to introduce Arnold now. So, then they cast Pat, and Pat was one of the sweetest guys you would ever want to meet. I mean, he was just such a sweet, soft-spoken, tender, and insightful, and smart, really smart, and incredibly funny. But you look at him off stage and you talk to him, and then you see what he does on stage. It's like two different people. It's
Wow.
totally two different people. But he would crack us up. He was so funny. He was just so funny. You have such fond memories of Pat, and there were times when we would Friday night would be the night we'd shoot the show in front of an audience. So we'd have a dress rehearsal during the afternoon and then get notes. And then we'd go to dinner, usually in the commissary. But sometimes there was this restaurant right outside on the street from Paramount Studios. And, a real nice restaurant with a nice bar and all that. So sometimes you'd go there. And Pat, I mean, he'd come to me and go, "Hey, you want to go to Nick Adele's, you know?" And I go, "Yeah, let's go." And I'd go and have dinner with Pat, you know, and have a drink maybe. And I have great, great memories. You know, he was just such a great guy. And then when what happened was he was offered his own series, Mr. T and Tina. And so, you know, everybody felt, hey, there's a great opportunity for his own series. So he did that. And that's when they had to bring in somebody to take over the restaurant, which was Al. And Gary Marshall had worked with Al Molinaro on The Odd Couple.
Okay.
Now Al played Murray the Cop. So, you know, I think he just cast him. He said, hey, let's bring Al Molinaro into this. And then Al was also one of the sweetest guys you'd ever want to meet. They were just fabulous. And he was so funny in his way, you know. I mean, I could picture him now, you know, with his facial expressions and his yep, you know, all the stuff that he would do. But he was the sweetest guy. They were both wonderful.
It's funny because I used to say that for so many years too. Like when people say something, I'd be just like, yep.
Yeah. You're right. I don't know how that originated. I don't know if that was. I'm going to have to ask some of the guys, you know, if they remember how that originated. You know, was that something that Al did? I don't think so. Was it something that maybe he did it? Maybe he had kind of improvised it one day, and then I bet you that's what it was. I'll find out.
That's funny. Now, I got to ask you too, like something that came famous probably 10, 15 years ago, and it's like a statement that like it became like a true statement for so many things in just life, and so many people have used it, and I think it's like it truly defines the way things were with not only Happy Days but so many other shows, and like I said with life was the whole jump the shark thing.
All right.
When you heard that, how was your feelings about the whole jump the shark? Did you take insult to it? Did you kind of agree with it? Did you?
Well, here's my end of the story. I left the show after the 7th season. My contract was up, and they offered me a new contract. And long story, a lot of reasons which we don't need to get into.
Sure.
Nothing crazy, but just different reasons. But I felt it was time to move on. So, and okay, one of the reasons that I felt this was because there are a lot more, was that the quality of the shows, it was just not the same. And,
sure.
And now it's a subjective thing. Some people could disagree with me, but it was moving in a direction, and it just didn't feel as good and fresh as it had been. And that was one of the reasons. So I actually left the show shortly after the season that was. I think that was season 6, I think, or it might have been the end of season 5 or 6. I'm not sure. But then after 7, I left. The show ran 4 more years after that. So I don't totally disagree with that, you know. Now, somebody could say, yeah, but the show ran 4 more years, you know. So, you know, if it ran for 4 more years, you know, a lot of people still liking it, obviously. So there's that argument too.
This is true. It's funny that like when the statement came out, I was like, wow. Like I kind of remember as a kid watching it, thinking to myself, like when Fonzie jumped the motorcycle at Arnold's, I was like, this is cool.
That was totally cool.
But when he jumped the shark, I was like, I don't know. I think we're pushing the issue now.
Yeah, like how did we get here, right?
right. That's funny. So, how about now going back to the music? You're working on the album.
Yeah.
Now, are you coming to Nashville? That's what I like. Now, don't come. We're snowing. We're snowed in.
No, but I will be coming. You know, hopefully, maybe by May. You know, because by then maybe it'll be safe enough people can get together in a studio to lay down the tracks. So I'm hoping, yeah. The single that was just released in the UK, well, in another week or two, but it's, by the way, it's on iTunes, so people can check it out on iTunes.
I checked it out.
Oh, you did? Ooh, baby, baby.
You want to know something? I don't know if you know this or not. You want to know something crazy? So I guess you put this out about it's out on I heard it on Spotify. So it's out as of like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it just came out, right.
Do you know who put out the same exact single about 2 weeks ago?
No, who?
Paul Stanley of Kiss.
You're kidding. You're kidding. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, he's got like he's got a thing now called Paul Stanley Soul Station. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. They put out the same single.
I had no idea. No idea.
Right?
I got to call Tony and say, hey, well, maybe in the UK, it's what I'm hearing is getting great response in the UK.
It's amazing. It's great. I love it.
It's pretty cool sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very different than the jazz swing that I've been doing, but it blends in on the CD that I'm doing. It's a mixture. There's still some jazz standards, but it's with a more contemporary jazz setting than the big band thing. It's more contemporary jazz. And then there's some songs from the 60s and 70s that we've thrown in there, like Ooh Baby Baby, and I did Smoke from a Distant Fire, which I always loved. There's a Sanford Townsend band, and a few other songs. And we still have 4 more that we're not exactly sure which ones we're going with. So it's a mixture. But wow, that's a mind bender to me that now he released it at the same time. Frank, well, I don't know. I've got 11 others, so
there you go. Hey, but you're Donnie Most. He's Paul Stanley. It's 2 different worlds. It doesn't matter.
Maybe each will, maybe it'll help bring attention. Who knows?
That's it.
Who knows?
2 kings of the 70s.
Right.
Now, the I don't know if you want to say funny or weird, like, as I discovered you had this album from the 70s, I thought to myself, have you ever thought of redoing any of those songs in Don's swinging style of the modern day?
No, I haven't. I'll have to think about it now. I'll have to, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Maybe there's a possibility to do it, to swing it,
yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to look through the, wait a second. Hold on, I'm coming.
There it is.
There it is. I'll check out the song list and see if, with creative arranging, anything could be done.
Absolutely.
So who knows? Maybe there's a gem of an idea there, Bay.
Why is that not framed and hanging on your wall is what I want to know.
I don't know. Who's leaning against my wall? And that's only recently. It wasn't even here for a little, and somehow I came upon it and I said, no, I don't want to leave it here in the garage. I better put it somewhere. The elements are more controlled.
That's great. Now, one more thing I want to ask about. I saw too, before Christmas, you did a carpool karaoke, you and your wife.
Oh, yeah. We had actually shot that the year before. And then I don't know why we didn't post it. So we posted it. We posted it this time. Yeah. All I want for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the big message in there was you were trying to raise awareness to Parkinson's disease.
Or a cure for Parkinson's. Yes.
Yeah.
Because my wife was diagnosed with it 20 years ago.
Really?
Yes. So,
wow.
So, and it was her idea. She was watching the, car karaoke with James Corden, and I guess Mariah Carey did one where they did All I Want for Christmas, and everybody was in it. I have the original. Elton John was. So many people were in it. It was the coolest thing. And then Morgan said, why don't we? She knows how I love to play because I've directed 3 independent films, and I've made some cool, fun videos along the way. So she knew that I'd be into it. She says, "Why don't we make our own car karaoke video like that? We'll do a takeoff on that, but then we'll reveal that all I want for Christmas is," and then we'd reveal with the card in front of us, "a cure for Parkinson's,"
Right.
which was, it was a great message and a great
Sure.
emotional impact for it, and fun at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So now, how about what do you have cooking now? Has things started to open up more as the COVID is kind of slowing down? I don't know if it is or not. Stories are mixed.
Yeah, it sounds like it is, but it's still going to be a while before things are going to open up enough. I mean, there is some filming going on, TV and film, but not as, less than half of what is normal because of
Sure.
the restrictions that they have and how much more expensive it is for them to do a show, to follow all these guidelines. So I haven't been, doing any TV or film work, although I'm supposed to there was a movie I was supposed to do last May, but that got pushed back.
Okay.
So now they're telling me they're hoping to shoot in April, and I'd be going to Prague to do it, which is exciting.
Oh, wow.
And it'll be a fun project. It's kind of like a Princess Bride kind of thing, and I'll be playing a king. So that'll be neat. So hopefully that's happening. But beyond that, and then finishing the CD maybe in May. And then, I'm waiting for things to open up because, I felt really good about Lost Heart, as you mentioned, the film.
Sure.
And before that, the one I did, I was building some real momentum and to do a lot more of different kinds of roles, things that people would not expect and things that I enjoy that really are fulfilling. And then everything came to the screeching halt and I lost that momentum, So got to get it back, got to get the mojo back. So we'll see. Doing this movie in Prague would certainly be a nice beginning. And then maybe Puckheads will make it on the air. I have about 3-4 different projects of my own that I'm trying to get going. And
Nice.
people are looking at right now. One is a film that I would direct, which I wrote with my wife. And then another one. And then I have a couple of TV series that we're starting to pitch and get out there, and 2 other film projects. So, we'll see. Hopefully 2021 and 22 are going to be good years. That's what we're hoping.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now going back to, again, I got more questions and I'm sorry, but going back to Lost Heart.
Yeah.
Playing the character Milo, the pastor.
Yeah.
Did you ever picture yourself playing a pastor role?
Not really. No, I never pictured myself. But I'm open. I'm open to if it's a well-written part. If it's a well-written script with good character development and all that. It doesn't matter what it is. So no, I never thought of playing a role like that. But when I read it, it was like, whoa, this. I love the script. And the character I found very interesting. And so what I told them, and it wasn't in there, and I don't even know if it comes through, if people get it from the script. But when I read it, I said to the director and DJ, the writer, I said, I have a feeling that the way you have this guy, the way he is, because he was a little insecure, and he wanted, when he'd come up with he'd say something that he'd go, oh, I got to remember that for the next sermon. He has this little notepad of keeping all these things down, these nuggets. So I said, I have a feeling this guy maybe came to this later in life, like it wasn't from the beginning,
Right.
So that's how I approached it. And they thought it was good. And we even rewrote a little bit to make that, in a subtle way there. So, but it was interesting because it was very different than Ralph, obviously.
Sure.
In some ways closer to me, but then different in other ways. But I knew some people that I could draw upon, and I found I knew that I had to kind of calm myself down to this other place that I could be helpful to other people. You know what I mean? That I can really be helpful to other people. So I had to have a different calming kind of energy. And I found that doing meditating a lot was what that was one of the tools I used for this character. Slowing my thought process down. Maybe not the thought process, but your rhythm, slowing the rhythm down.
You know what though? Like I felt it very much though. Like I could feel you in that almost mentorish role.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Well, mentorship, I mean, what he wants to try to help this character, try to help her heal.
Mm-hmm.
Mentoring, being of, helping in, whichever way possible. Definitely, I guess it's similar, but, really caring and trying to open up their minds to certain things. And I don't know. I mean, I think we could all relate to that to some degree, where if you're in a situation where you really want to help somebody and you want to bring out the best in them and all of that. So that's what you do, as an actor. You find things from your own life that you can correlate, that are similar in some way. And then it's like, oh, I know what that feels like. Oh yeah, I know when so-and-so, that's where the method, remembering emotional memories and all these kinds of exercises they would do in the method acting classes, but they're very helpful and they could definitely come into play.
Another question I had from that movie was, as I was watching, I kept thinking to myself, it's got a lot of religious overtones. Are you a religious person?
No, not really. I mean, and I'm Jewish, so but rabbis, pastors, there's a certain commonality there. And like I said, I knew people that I could draw upon, and then there's certain things that are just common to it
Sure.
all of that. But I'm a in the Reform Jew, so the least religious of the tiers, so to speak. And but there's certain things that are common, whether you're very religious or just a little bit, that things that you can not cling to, but look for and hold on to and need in times when you need support. They're all similar, I think.
Absolutely. Well, Don, this is always amazing talking to you.
Oh,
always bring a smile to my face.
Well, you make it easy and make it enjoyable for me as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And hey, when you ever do make it to Nashville, I hope we can get together, have dinner or something. That would be amazing.
Definitely, we have to. Okay, well, let's exchange, whatever we need to make that happen. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And where should we send everybody to let them keep up to date on you?
Oh, well, I have to update my website, donniemost.com, because that's not really up to date, but I will soon. But Facebook, I go under Don Most in Facebook. I have a music page and a regular page, or regular whatever. And then there's Twitter is Most_Don. And on Instagram, it's Don Most 1.
Nice. Right. And before I let you go, is it possible to get an infamous "I still got it"?
All right. I still got it.
That just warmed my heart so much, Don. Thank you.
My pleasure.
As the young child of the 70s and teenager of the 80s, you don't know how much that just meant to me.
Well, I'm so happy that I was able to do that for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, let's keep in touch and get to Nashville. Let's do dinner.
I would love that. Absolutely.
I would too.
Okay.
Thanks, Don. Take care.
Take care of yourself. Stay safe.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.